Okay, I am running a little behind on this one. I know that I got a bit confused with some of this one because I wasn't quite sure what information pertained to it and what didn't. So, yeah. Um, this is all about Hanukkah, by the way. Hanukkah is a Jewish holiday, and it started 2 days ago. But like I said, when I was looking into it, I got a bit confused. I get confused a lot, especially around holidays that I don't understand. Well, I understand the basics of Hanukkah. I understood why it happened, but trying to find all the details of it all, I got a bit confused because there was a lot of information, and I wasn't sure if it all pertained to Hanukkah because it kept going off onto different directions, and I thought, I don't know if this is the right thing, and I didn't know if it was. Yeah, I got a bit confused, so I got a load of facts, I got some facts, and then I got a bit confused. So, I'm absolutely convinced that I've missed out a whole load of information. And any information I have missed out, I am so sorry. Please stick it in the comments and pin any information I have absolutely missed about Hanukkah. Yeah? Because I'm absolutely convinced I have missed a load of information. But I did keep getting confused because every time I looked at it all, I found information and then I wasn't sure whether it pertained to Hanukkah because it said something completely different at the title, and then I wasn't sure if it was Hanukkah or if it was something else because as I kept reading, I was like, doesn't make sense and it doesn't seem to connect. I don't know. So, yeah. Um, yeah. So I'm absolutely convinced that I've missed loads of information. Um, so anybody and everybody that is celebrating Hanukkah out there, I am so sorry that I probably have not done this the justice that it deserved. But feel free to please stick in the comments and pin any information that I have missed. Alright? So Hanukkah started this year on the 7th of December and it finishes on the 15th. Okay? Hanukkah itself just means dedication and education. Okay? It is a Jewish festival. I cannot get my words out today. And it is an 8-day celebration. And it's to commemorate the rededication of their second temple. And this is BCE. We're talking right back in the day. Now, we're talking now. Where was it? Did write that bit down. Did I miss it somewhere? I missed it somewhere. Pretty sure I wrote it down. Where did I write that? Look, I missed a page. No. Something's off. Maybe I didn't write it down. Oh, yes, I did. The Maccabees. Ha! We're talking time of the Maccabees. Ha! I knew it was in there. So this is way back in the day. So this is to do with the rededication of the second temple. When they used oil to light their temples and to light their way. Inside temples, they used a different kind of oil. And that oil had to be consecrated. Consecrated, that is a word. I can say it. It had to be consecrated, and which meant they had to make it in a certain way. But the process, it takes time. It's not, they couldn't just make this oil and it would be fine. They had to make a very special oil and they had to consecrate it to be able to use it inside their temples. They could use any bog standard oil to light all the other lamps and to light everything else. It didn't matter what kind of oil they used, it was fine. But inside their temple, they had to use a very special oil. And it took time, and there were processes it had to go through. Now, there came a point where during a time when Israel was under siege, that especially when Judas the Maccabee went into the temple and he found only one small jar that had not been contaminated. But there was only enough oil to light their lamps light the lamps in the temple for one day. Now the light to keep the light in the temple for one day. Now the temple lights were never allowed to go out, because if the light went out in the temple, it meant that God had forsaken them. So they were never ever allowed to let the lamps go out. The light was never allowed to be removed from the temples. It was sacred. Now I don't know if it's the same today in the synagogues or whatever, that the light must always be on. But when the temples were built, they were never allowed to let the light go out, because if the light went out, it meant that God had forsaken them. So when they found this one small jar that only had enough oil to light their temple for one day, you can imagine the panic that went on. I can. Because if the light had gone out, they would have believed wholeheartedly that they had been forsaken by God. So, he found this one little jar to light the temple, knowing full well that it would only last one day. And then he had to gather the people, gather the priests, the anointed ones, to make more of this oil. It was going to take 8 more days. 8 days it was going to take to make this oil. And by some miracle, they were blessed by God. And that oil that was only supposed to last for one day lasted until that oil had been made, until they'd managed to make enough to keep their lamps open, to keep the lamps burning till they'd made some more of this oil. I mean, the Jewish people must have been, you can imagine how grateful, how fearful they must have been to believe that they were going to be forsaken, only to have those lamps just remain and that light kept in the temple constantly. While the priests gather the ingredients they needed to start making more of this oil and going through the rituals that were needed to consecrate this oil, knowing it was going to take days, firmly believing that while this was happening, God was going to just leave them. And when it didn't happen, I can almost picture the camp, the people on their knees, praying, that, thanking God, for blessing them like that, And it would have been one of their greatest blessings at that time, for not only seeing that God hadn't forsaken them, but for removing that fear that he was going to leave them. there would have been so much emotion in that camp amongst the Jewish people at that time. You know, it's incredible, realistically, that we'll never fully understand what went on then. But what we do understand is the miracle of it. And trying to put ourselves in that position, I don't think we'd ever fully be able to, articulate what would have gone on back then. Seeing it, watching it, being a part of that society when that went on. I mean, to be frank, I'd love to have been there. I'd love to have watched that, seen these people, seeing God's miracle would have been amazing. You know. So since then, ever since then, at that same time, what they do is commemorate the blessing that God gave them, the miracle that he produced, and the blessing that they were given. And it's exactly what Hanukkah is. Hanukkah is their blessed. It's a blessing. You know, it's the Jews were blessed by God. He produced this miracle and they were blessed. So they commemorate it every year around the same time. And it's called Kislev. It is in December. It is called Kislev. It's the 25th of Kislev, which is December. Obviously, it's not on the 25th of December, but it's called Kislev. It's the 25th, Kislev 25th. Yeah. But when we get to the 1st century, they switched from lamp oil to candles, and they stopped using the lamp oil completely. And instead of commemorating with lamps and blessings that gave, what they started doing is each day of Hanukkah, they light one candle every single day, because each day they had light in the temple. And it's the same kind of thing, only this time it's with a candle. You know, now there are two different ways to deal with Hanukkah. You have a non-religious version of Hanukkah, as well as obviously the religious connotations. When you do it via, if you're religious, if you are either an Orthodox Jew or now I cannot remember what the other one is, someone who believes in the Messiah, a Messianic Jew, or an Orthodox Jew, regardless of which side you fall on. And I know that there are issues between you both. During Hanukkah, you have the daily scripture readings. You recite some of the Psalms. You have public readings from the Torah. And you also have miracle prayers have miracle prayers that are read from the scroll of Antioch. And it's called the Althanism. Yeah, that'll do. If I'm pronouncing it wrong, I'm really sorry. And it's just to offer the thanks up to God. But there are non-religious customs as well. If you are just Jewish by birth and you don't actually practice, you have a celebration. There is a celebration for menorah, for Hanukkah, where there are lots of meals, songs, games, and where Jewish people give gifts to their children. Now, those gifts are usually in the form of chocolate money or chocolate coins with the gold wrapping. You know, the chocolate gold coins. Yeah, the gold chocolate coins. and you have lots of fried treats. They have a lot of fried treats, and the fried treats are always fried in lots of oil as a representation of the miracle that actually occurred during Hanukkah. It's just to remind everybody, as a way to recall the miracle. So they have a lot of fried treats. And they do things like that. So they celebrate Hanukkah, but they celebrate it in a more I don't know. I think it's more. In a very kind of a way in which takes out all of the faith, I suppose. All takes out God, I suppose. They celebrate in a way that takes God out of the picture, but doesn't completely remove the remembrance of it, of what he did. But there are things that do happen in Jerusalem at this time. At the very beginning, on the first day, you do have in Jerusalem, you have what's classed as runners who have a bit like the Olympics. You have where they've got burning torches, but you have runners that run through the streets. It begins in Modin, Modin, Modin. Modin. I'm assuming that's a place somewhere in Jerusalem. And they run through the streets from Modin all the way up to the Western Wall. So obviously you change torches, just like we do with the Olympic torch. He changes hands. And then when you get to the Western Wall, the torch is handed to the chief rabbi, because the Western Wall, see, I learnt something, because what I didn't know, the Western Wall has always been a place of reverence, where they go for prayers and things like that. What I didn't know is it's actually the remnant of the Second Temple. I did not know that. I do now. It's actually the remnant of the temple, of which the miracle actually occurred. I learnt that. It's really fascinating, absolutely incredible, which is why it's such an important place for for Jews. So when they get to the Western Wall, they hand the torch off to the chief rabbi, and the chief rabbi will light the first candle of the giant menorah with it. And that's on obviously the first day of Hanukkah. I do think it's really incredible. And obviously during Hanukkah, it's a national holiday. Schools are shut, everything's shut. The place kind of becomes a celebration. The synagogues and people in the synagogues are usually packed full. There's a lot of readings, there's a lot of teachings going on. The rabbis will open up the synagogues to the people. There's a lot of scriptures being read, there's a lot of teachings being done. Those people don't always go to the synagogues for teachings and readings. Sometimes they do it in their own homes. They read their own scriptures in their own homes and do it there. But there's a lot of it going on there. It becomes a very holy time of the year, where everybody is busy learning more about the scriptures, reading more of the scriptures, offering up prayers and blessings to God. The candles are lit daily, both in the synagogues and in their own homes. They have special menorahs specifically for Hanukkah, that they light. And it's incredible, realistically, that to this day, the Jewish nation, the Jewish people worldwide, will bless God, thank him for the miracle he performed so many centuries ago. like I said, I know I've missed a lot of information out, but I got really confused with a lot of it because some of it said some things and then it all went off on a tangent and I wasn't quite sure how much of it was connected to. Yeah, I got very confused with a lot of information because I was not sure how much of it connected to Hanukkah and how much of it was connected to something else, or if none of it was, or if they were just talking about other things. And I got a bit confused after that. But like I said, pin any comments you've got, especially all the information that I've missed, because I'm pretty convinced I've missed a lot. Any comments, any information that I've missed, pin it in the comments, because I know I've missed information. I know there are things that I've missed, absolutely know that for a fact. Pin it all in the comments and enjoy your Hanukkah and have a blessed holiday.